Alright, everybody, welcome back to the stream. We've got ourselves a lot to talk about tonight, alright? We have breaking news now. A potential tropical storm slash hurricane trying to start developing right now in the southwestern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. Currently, the National Hurricane Center has outlined this at a extreme area of concern. There's an 80% chance that this develops into a tropical depression or stronger within the next 7 days, and a 60% chance that we see a tropical depression or stronger within the next 48 hours. This is going to be a major concern here over the next few days for portions of the Gulf of Mexico. Tonight we're going to be talking about why and who needs to look out, and what you could be seeing with this system here depending on where you're at, alright? So, obviously, this has not even developed into a tropical depression yet, so take everything I say here with a grain of salt, but in these potential tropical cyclone events, I like to get the first updates out very, very early so that we make sure that we're spreading the word. What's up, Mr. Storm? So I want to make sure that we're covering all of our bases here as early as possible, so we will have more streams out on this as new information comes in, but again, right now we are talking about the potential for a tropical storm or hurricane to develop in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico over the next week or so. So what am I yapping about, alright? Well, the actual little system that we are talking about right now, we're likely not going to be able to see, unfortunately, due to the it being nighttime. We're not going to be able to see it on the satellite region, right? But we can see it on the infrared. So if I go ahead and bring that up here on your guys' screen really quickly, this is what potential tropical cyclone Francine, as I'm calling it, or Invest 91, nighttime, we're not going to be able to see it on the whatever you want to call it, right? Sorry, but I just forgot to mute myself. It's alright. Invest 91L, technically, alright? Again, not looking super impressive at the minute, just looking like a big old thunderstorm here, but that's going to change very quickly. If we go ahead and take a look at the model track guidance here, alright, everybody, we can see that a lot of our members here, our models rather, are trying to push this northwestward into a South Texas, northeastern Mexico landfall, and I do think that that's a possibility, but I think the greater likelihood is that this turns a little bit and makes a landfall somewhere in southwestern Louisiana. We got a lot of models here saying that that is going to be a heavy possibility to see a southwestern Louisiana landfall there. If that were to happen, that would probably be not a worst case scenario, but a worse case than if it were to make landfall in Mexico, because that would give this system more time to strengthen, and again, at that point, it very well could be a low-end Category 1 hurricane, and again, we're going to dive into all that more later on in the stream, alright? So what's up, everybody? Thank you all for joining. It's not a potential tropical cyclone according to the National Hurricane Center. That's just what I call them whenever they are, just this close to becoming a tropical depression or stronger. No, technically it's not a potential tropical cyclone. Excuse me. Sorry, I think I'm getting a sore throat, but it's alright. But yes, it is going to be a tropical cyclone very soon. In my opinion, I think it's definitely going to develop into at least a tropical storm, and again, we're going to see what happens with all that, but if we go ahead and pull up the intensity guidance here, we can see some very interesting stuff. And again, guys, I want you to take this all with a grain of salt. This is brand new information here. A lot of our models are struggling, but we can see that most of them are pushing this to a low-end tropical storm force strength. But we got one odd one saying this is going to make it all the way to a Category 2 hurricane. Now, am I saying that's what's going to happen? No. In fact, it's probably not going to happen. But I would like to point out this season has had a history of tropical systems overperforming here. So I would not be surprised, again, to see a tropical storm, maybe even a low-end Category 1 hurricane out of this. Again, I think this model is blowing things way out of proportion here, but could end up being the correct one, alright? That we had something similar happen with Hurricane Beryl, where every single one of the members and models were saying that it would be, Cat 3, Cat 4 at max, and it got to Cat 5. It did. So things change, but again, right now we're saying maybe a weak tropical storm for this sucker right here, right? So if it were to become a weak tropical storm, that would give it the name Francine officially, and again, I think that's a good possibility. But if we go ahead and take a look at some of our forecast models here, here's the interesting part, right? Let's go ahead and start off by looking at the GFS model, right? The number one long-range forecasting model, in my opinion here. So the new run of the GFS is still coming in, actually, but what we can see, actually, is a lot of that tropical moisture set to develop even further over the next 24 hours or so. So, again, even just by 10 p.m. tomorrow, I mean, this is already looking like something decently impressive right there. Yeah, flooding in Louisiana would definitely be quite bad if it were to happen there, and that area has already seen a ton of flooding recently just because of tropical moisture in general, but anyway, yapping aside, if we get back to the last run of the GFS here that is fully completed, if it would like to load anytime soon, that would be nice. As you can see, it does have this definitely developing into a high-end tropical storm. Again, maybe a low-end Category 1 hurricane making landfall in southern Louisiana here, southwestern Louisiana in particular. And that would be around this kind of midweek this week, according to the GFS model here. The 12th, I believe that would be... that would be Thursday. Sorry. So, again, that's kind of saying Thursday morning-ish. All right, Wednesday night is kind of what the GFS is saying for right now. But, again, things are going to change. But as you can see, it has this thing absolutely dumping rain all over Louisiana, Mississippi, eastern Arkansas, western Tennessee, riding all the way up through southern Illinois. And if that were to happen, that would make for some great storm footage. I'll say that off the bat right now for me. But, anyway, if we go ahead and change over to the European model here, let's go ahead and take a look at what it's saying, because it's painting quite a different picture. I forgot you can't bring up the reflectivity on the European on Radar Omega for some reason. It's stupid, but don't ask me. So let's go and bring this up on your screen here. We can see that the European model does have this definitely developing into Francine as well. Now, the European, the 18Z isn't a full 240-hour run, so we'll go ahead and look at the 12Z, but the 12Z does have this doing a very similar thing, making landfall in southeastern Texas, southwestern Louisiana, as a 987 millibar low-pressure system, rapidly strengthening just before landfall. This doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's at 996. How can the pressure drop 9 millibars whenever there's only, an inch of water left that it has to travel through? I don't get it, but that's what the European model is saying. It's painting a very similar picture to the GFS, although it's taking its general track a little further westward, so again, right around the Beaumont, Texas areas where we'd expect some sort of landfall or landfall-like impacts there. And again, this system would continue to ride through northern Louisiana, dumping rain over pretty much the whole state of Arkansas and making its way through eastern Missouri back into parts of western Illinois, right? Now, the Canadian model has a very interesting outlook on this. I want to go through the Canadian as well. We can see that the Canadian is saying that, again, just like the other two models we looked at, this will become a named storm. However, the Canadian is saying that this will be a little bit weaker. They're being a little bit more conservative with the numbers here. And they're saying that it will be an even further west landfall. They're saying like a Houston landfall. And if that were to happen, obviously that would put a lot of people at risk, but also that would give this system less time to strengthen. So that's good news and bad news if that sort of situation were to play out there. And again, as the system kind of just riding up the southern Mississippi River Valley, and it actually has it going into Appalachia, dumping some heavy rain, which is interesting. But anyway, those are what the models are showing here for our potential tropical cyclone Francine, Invest 91L, whatever you want to call it, right? So if you have any questions, make sure to leave those down below. We're not done yet. Just want to take a little break here. My voice is kind of rough tonight. Sorry about that. As we go through the stream here, the new run of the GFS will continue to come in, and that will obviously give us some more stuff to talk about. But the new run of the GFS being pretty aggressive here with the amount of rain that this thing could be dumping over kind of the northeastern sector of Mexico there. It's not necessarily saying a landfall in Mexico, but I mean, it's getting pretty darn close, which is interesting, because that's a lot different from its last run, actually. In fact, it really is getting quite close to a Mexico landfall, but it doesn't have it there, just barely. It does get down to a 1,002 millibar low pressure system, and it's saying that'll happen as early as, what looks to be Monday morning here, so that's kind of interesting in my opinion. So, let's talk about some stuff. Yeah, again, the Houston area is a spot that we would have to watch. Again, we're not going to guarantee anything at this point because we're way far out. But it is a potential that we do see some sort of Houston impacts at the very least. I'd say at this point it's kind of a guarantee almost that you're at least going to see some rain, right? But a landfall is definitely not certain. So I'd honestly say anywhere in between these two blue lines that I'm drawing right now, we cannot rule out a landfall in this region here, all right? I would say that the greater area at risk would be kind of right up into this region, right along this extreme southeast Texas coast, back into the southwestern Louisiana coast, and then a little bit more of a minor risk back towards the Houston metro, down towards areas to the northeast of Corpus Christi, and then same goes for New Orleans, points eastward towards Mobile, Pensacola. So again, this region here in the red, that's where I would guess has the highest potential to see a landfall from this system. But again, that's a very early prediction. We're talking over 150 hours out almost. So again, that's what I'd say. And again, the intensity with this system could be anywhere from, a tropical depression all the way up to a Category 1 or 2 hurricane. I'd say Category 1 is probably the ceiling that we're going to see with this system, though, just because of the limited amount of time it has to strengthen. It kind of reminds me of Idalia, but the reason Idalia was able to strengthen so much more is because it had more time. It was pointed all the way at Florida, so, it had time. It was able to strengthen all the way up to a Cat 4. This system doesn't have a lot of time, which is why a lot of our models are saying, hey, maybe Tropical Storm, maybe Category 1, right? So that's what's is the deal. That's why the systems, we're not really expecting it to get too strong, even though we've got record-breaking SSTs out here right now, literally. And that's another thing I want to show you guys. The Gulf of Mexico is quite literally cooking. Hold on, we got a couple new frames on the GFS. I want to look at that. Let's see. Okay, so it's getting stronger right now on the newer frames that we're seeing, but the Gulf of Mexico is cooking beyond belief. You would not believe how warm it is out there right now. The entirety of the Gulf of Mexico is above average temperature-wise, and considering this is the hottest time of the year for it, this is a big problem, all right? We are talking, a solid 2 degrees Celsius above average for a good chunk of the Gulf here, especially in the area where we've got potential tropical cyclone Francine invest, 91L, I believe. So that's something to watch out for. Again, the entire area that this thing's going to be heading for is above average temperature-wise, so it's not going to have any problems with that. It wouldn't anyways, even if, we were 5 degrees below average, because we are at peak hurricane season. It would still be able to strengthen a little bit in that kind of environment, I imagine. But just to put that into perspective, this is what things are looking like Celsius-wise. We are talking about 32 degrees Celsius likely in here in portions of the Gulf of Mexico, which is absolutely insane. That is not meant to happen. As you can see, 32 is as high as it gets on the scale here. So the western Gulf of Mexico is getting close to breaking the scale, which is pretty interesting. No, yeah, I don't think that this thing would cause any sort of major power outages. I do think that power outages could be a problem, but again, the winds are not going to be as strong as anything like Beryl, obviously. Even though Beryl weakened a ton, I still don't imagine this thing will be able to get up to Beryl's strength where Beryl was at landfall, because Beryl was a kind of a low to mid-range Category 1. And again, I'd expect this thing to be more in the high-end tropical storm to... Yeah, I'm just going to say high-end tropical storm for right now. That would be a rough estimate. But again, realistically, it could be anywhere from a tropical depression to a Cat 2 even, if you didn't want to put any limits on this thing. It's just not physically possible that it's anything higher than a Category 2, pretty much. At this point in time. And I also don't think it's very likely that we get below a tropical depression, which is why I've kind of said that this whole stream, that's the floor for this system. Again, I know anything could happen, but that's, giving you a wide range of what could happen here. I mean, the difference between a tropical depression and a Cat 2 is like 100-mile-an-hour winds, so that's a pretty big deal. But yeah. You ever seen me up this late? I was up this late for the Beryl stream, I'm pretty sure. I normally stay up, and on the weekends anyway, I normally stay up until 2 a.m. or so, but Obviously, at a certain point, I don't want to wake up any of my family, so I'd like to kind of keep my streams before midnight if possible. What's up, Matt Prunty? Okay, if you're just not tuning in, we're just chilling. We did just do a whole 15-minute breakdown on the forecast for potential tropical cyclone Francine, Invest 91L. But yeah. So if you have any questions about your location, obviously make sure to leave those down below. Some more frames are coming in here on the new run of the GFS. Let's see what's up with that. Wow, so the GFS looks like it's going to have this thing strengthening actually quite a bit. Right now, the newest frame only has this just off the northeast coast of Mexico, and it's already at a 996 millibar low pressure system. So, again, I mean, we could be talking decently strong system here. If it does make its way all the way to southwestern Louisiana. Again, the further east that it makes landfall, the stronger it could be. You didn't know if you were saying this correctly? Seeing what now? Got down to the 60s this morning. Yeah, in some spots of the Midwest, it's going to get down into the 30s tomorrow morning. Yes, that's serious. That's not an exaggeration. Let's just take a look at this. So, we're going to have to go back on the last run. I will tell you, though, it's already... Oh, you weren't expecting it this time of night? Yeah. Yep, we're up late tonight. But, no, some spots in the Midwest, seriously, though, are already dipping down into the high 30s in localized areas, especially of Michigan. Which is insane. And again, even on the new run of the HRRR here, we can see as early as 1 a.m., we're going to be talking about 36 degrees in some of those spots there in western Michigan. But if we look at the last run here, we're going to be able to see all the way into tomorrow morning. And be prepared for this to shock you guys. 6 a.m. Look at West Virginia. What is happening? I'm just speechless. This is early September. This is the first week of September. What is this? What's this, West Virginia? What's this, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan? I mean, look at Michigan. Some of these spots are going to be getting near freezing. That's just ridiculous. 33.2 degrees. That's insane. A massive cool down coming to the Midwest tomorrow morning for sure. No doubt about it. Absolute insanity, dude. It's just crazy stuff. It's going to get down into the 40s in my neck of the woods. Low 40s, that is. It's crazy stuff. And some of the models are even saying it's going to get lower than that. If we look at the NAM, I think the NAM was even a little more aggressive than the HRRR in this situation. Let's check things out. Any day now. Any day now. We did have a full-on waterspout outbreak today over the Great Lakes, which was pretty interesting. There was no sort of actual tornado threat, but waterspouts were a big thing. But no, the NAM has this going absolutely nutty. I mean, they're talking about 20s in Indiana. I don't know where they're getting these numbers from. I think they're pulling these... I'm not going to finish that sentence. I forgot I was live. But, what? How do you get into the 20s in the first week of September in Indiana? That just doesn't happen. They've also got little splotches of 20s in Ohio. Absolutely insane. Crazy stuff. And the NAM is saying that my region would get down to about 40. But back in northwestern Illinois, I mean, we're talking low 30s. Ridiculous stuff. In the first week of September. I guess at that point it'll technically be the second week of September. But still. And then out in the west, we're absolutely baking right now, guys. It's ridiculous how hot it is out there. If we look at... we can look at anywhere out here, but look at this. Death Valley, 115 degrees. While at the same time, back over into portions of upstate New York, it's going to be in the high 30s. That is an 80-degree difference, an 85-degree difference. Now, yes, I do realize that those areas are like 3,000 miles away, 2,000 miles away. But that's just insane to me. Absolutely insane. But this is a major cooldown. This is kind of our first signs of fall here in the Midwest. We've been talking about the potential for snow, at least some wintry mix dipping down into portions of like extreme northern Michigan, extreme eastern UP of Michigan, and western New York here. Maybe if this little clipper system in Canada dives a little further south than we think it will. Because if we look at that HRRR model, if we go back onto the reflectivity here, we can see it is clearly bringing some sort of system here producing thunderstorms and snow in Canada. And some of these little showers here, this is what we'd be watching for. But if we look at the GFS and we look at the precipitation types, I mean, look at that. We got little pockets of snow mixing in. And heavy snow at times, too, actually. I mean, look at this. You're talking about, 38 dBz snow. 46 in Waterloo, Iowa tonight. Yeah, that's another place where it's baking right now is Houston. And unfortunately, relief's kind of a long ways away for the Houston region, but... Okay, so the GFS now has a lot of new frames in here, so we can take a better look here at our system. Wow. That's big. I'm going to show you guys something. That is big. That's big news. If this happens, that's not good. That's the best way to put it. 982 before land. I mean, it's still got... Oh, gosh, dude, we got more frames. 978. I don't know where this came from. Last run, they were saying, like, 990. And now we're talking in the 970s. I mean, the 970s are legitimately a Category 2 hurricane. That is a big, big change to the forecast here by the GFS. Wow. That's insane. And then oh my gosh, dude. Come on. 976. Wow, what is the next frame going to be? Because that's going to be the landfall frame, probably. Again, if the further east this makes landfall, the worse it is. And again, the GFS is saying it is going to be pretty far east. Now they're saying like central Louisiana instead of western Louisiana. Remember, we're forecasting over 100 hours out here, so don't take any of this 100%. But we're just talking about possibilities here. And this is a possibility. I don't think it'll be this strong. I hope it's not this strong, but crap, it's a possibility. It is. Again, record-breaking SSTs out here. Limited wind shear to no wind shear. There's not a lot stopping this thing other than the short amount of time it has to strengthen before it makes landfall in the United States, which is a likelihood at this point. I want to see the next frame here. Let me check chat really quickly. Some of your family live in San Antonio. I imagine San Antonio would be fine because that's like further to the west, obviously. But okay, so yep, GFS saying 976 landfall. Wow, that's big. That's really big, actually. So hopefully that's not a trend. Hopefully that's just one run screwing around, but that's not what you want to see for sure. Yeah, at least it's not doing a direct hit to Houston. That's something. But yeah, again, San Antonio is fine. I doubt you're even going to get too much rain from this, honestly. Yeah, no problem. But yeah, I doubt you're going to get really any rain from this, actually. This run of the GFS is saying pretty much no rain for you, so. yeah, that's definitely not good news. That's for sure. Wow. Might get some rain in Houston. Yeah, I think Houston, again, rain is pretty much inevitable at this point. Again, I don't think you're going to get a landfall or anything like that, but you're definitely going to get at least some light sprinkles. And again, that's even with the GFS saying that it's going to make landfall further east, which I don't know if that's likelihood or not. Again, now they're saying centered kind of in the Lafayette region. New Iberia, Abbeville. Intracoastal city, that region there. Luckily, this is a very rural area. It's mostly marshy, swampy areas out here. However, that also kind of gives this... bad voice crack. That kind of gives this system a greater opportunity to strengthen, actually, further inland. Or at least not weaken quite as quickly. No, I doubt New Orleans is going to be cooked, honestly. Yeah, I think the landfall would most likely be somewhere between Mobile, Pensacola, and Houston. I definitely wouldn't go as far to say as New Orleans is cooked. But okay, we'll see what happens. Obviously, the details are going to change. They did have flooding a few days ago, yes. But, anyway. If we look at the euro for the Midwest cool down that we're seeing here, things look pretty impressive. We can't quite see 5 or 6 a.m., which would be the coldest point, but obviously, again, the main areas being affected are the Ohio Valley and the Northeast into the Midwest. Yeah, we were live for that, Matt. We were live for that. Made a storm chasing truck in a car game you play. Nice. But yes, we were live for the New York tornado. The one near, well, it was some weird name. It was like, I don't even know. Some wind damage in Puerto Rico today. Where do I get my models? They're just on Radar Omega if you have Radar Omega. If you don't, you can look at them on Tropical Tidbits, which is a website, free, no sign up. Pivotal Weather's another good one to look at them at. There's plenty of places you can. Even if you just like type in GFS to Safari or Google, you'll get a website that can load those probably. Or ECMWF or whatever you want to use. Or EMCWF, rather. Or no, it is ECM. I can never remember. No problem. It was Wirt, that's what it was. I knew it was in my title, I was just too lazy to look. Excuse me. Okay, I'm getting a sore throat. I'm hoping this doesn't last. So, wow, my voice cleared up a lot. Okay. We're back. Apparently I just needed to choke for a few seconds. Severe weather is not going to be a thing. It's non-existent for the next few days, by the way. We're not seeing any sort of severe weather threat at all. In fact, I'd go as far to say for the next month or so, we're not going to have any major severe weather events. I do think snow is going to be a bit more prominent in the tippity-toppity peaks of the Rockies here, but maybe in the extreme northern portions of whatever you'd call this region, the Great Lakes region. Not that complicated. You had wings for dinner? Yeah, I had Freddy's for lunch. It was kind of hidden. It was hidden different. And with that, I think we're able to end off here. We don't have a lot else to talk about. So, anyway, again, we're going to continue to bring you guys more updates on potential Francine over the next several days. So I want to thank you all for tuning in to this live stream. Again, sorry it was so late. We'll try to have the other ones not be so late, but thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.